Ah, attends, il y a ma copine. Wait, there's my girlfriend. But yes, 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 let's go. Oh, no, because she's watching. That's good. So we are live for the episode of May 4, 2025 on Hour Supramental. And today's topic is believing nothing. There you go. And we have Christian with us. Hello, Christian. Hello, Claude. And hello to everyone, all the spectators, the live spectators, and those who will come to watch him and read. So, a little report in the description of the live. Well, there's the link to come and join us. And so, at any time in the hour that will come, well, everyone can click on the link. So, today's topic is 9 years. As usual, I'm going to tell myself that small excerpt is this. There you go. It happens. A small excerpt from the film that I find related to belief with believing someone.
Only the disciplined mind can see reality, Winston. It needs an act of self-destruction, an effort of the will. Do you remember writing in your diary, freedom is the freedom to say 2 + 2 = 4? How many fingers am I holding up, Winston?
4.
And if the party says there are not 4, but 5, then how many?
There you go. And if the party says that there are not only 4 fingers, but there are 5, well, what should we believe? There are 4 or 5. And so precisely it shows finally for me, it's an example that illustrates well the difference between belief. Okay, it's an authority tells us to believe that 2 and 2 = 5, and knowledge is, well, I feel myself that there are only 2 and 2 make 4. I know it, and I can't necessarily show myself to others, but I also know internally. And so it's an example of the difference between belief. So that's today's topic, because we live from not believing and knowing. So, well, a few little examples of beliefs that we were instilled in and their evolution through history. For example, on cosmology, that is to say that a long time ago, well, we were asked to believe that the Earth was flat and that, well, the starry sky was disturbing, well, in a canvas that was low. Then, well, it moved to flat ground, but, well, in all planets, the sun and planets around us. And then, well, the Earth is round, but we always have all the planets around us, up to Copernicus, who tells us, well, that's the planet. The second planet is round, and then, like the other planets, it revolves around the sun, and then, and so on. The sun is around the galaxy, and so on and so forth. In fact, it's that we see that belief decreases when the science means that this is scientific work that made that yes, that's the scientific work that puts humanity forward to overcoming this belief. Well, I can mention many others. I can, well, in some peoples, there comes a time when the sun sets at the end of the day. Well, you have to pray that he he gets up the next morning. It's well, there's a topic that's a bit weird. Religion is that. That is to say, it's to say that in the history of humanity, well, we have religions that have different belief systems for us that we had to adhere to, and then, well, this belief system is over time. That is to say, that if I may then afford, and well, there is really a very, very long time, the belief system of religion is to address a thick side that finally, when there were the clubs, the men explained themselves with the club. Well, I had to give them a few little principles to be a little less dangerous, and then little by little, these principles are over. So that's my subject on religion and the different beliefs that. Hello, good evening, Jean-Luc.
Hi, Jean-Luc. Good evening, everyone. Okay. Well, and so the last example, and well, it was in management, COVID management. That is to say that when there is when France did not yet have a mask at its disposal, well, the belief relayed by the media, it was, well, the masks are useless, so we don't need to put on them. And then finally, when France had these, in order, it received its masks, well, masks became mandatory, and the new belief was, well, now, for to protect yourself from COVID, well, you have to wear masks. So there we really had in a few weeks a change in belief at 90 degrees, finally 180 degrees. So that's the last very recent example that I had, particularly noticed, particularly appreciated on the spot. There you go. Well, so between the two of you, Christian and Jean-Luc, well, you can intervene in one way or another on the belief. So Jean-Luc, I don't know if you heard that my little example at the very beginning is I proposed belief in black belief by telling myself, because since I passed an excerpt from the 1984 film where there's the distant hero who gets tortured by a representative of authority, and the representative of authority tells him, well, okay, so he shows him calmly and tells him, well, if the party tells you there are five, what do you answer? So there was the difference between, well, beliefs, that is to say that really you have to believe that the number of fingers presented, there are five, when we know internally that there are four. To take over there, I'm going to start. Thank you. So you understand, you would compare belief to knowledge. Yeah, I would put knowledge more into relationships in opposition, even if the word opposition is not well chosen in the phenomenon of knowledge. I believe that I will rather oppose the fact of not believing, because behind belief, what happens for me, there's something. So you listed lots of examples that are all valid to justify this phenomenon of belief. We started in an abrupt way that behind the word belief, there is one thing. It is, first of all, religious belief, whatever it is. I don't list all religions, but for me, belief is somewhat limited to that. And
as time progressed, especially over recent years, when I discovered all these supramental notions, Mr. realized that belief was much broader. The fact of believing that, particularly believing, believing that it seems to me always a submission, but like all beliefs, like when we say, I think I'm capable of doing that, or I don't think I'm capable of doing it, or I think I'm beautiful. In fact, all that is as soon as we express ourselves and say, I think that, well, or I don't think, well, we're in the phenomenon of belief, whatever the subject addressed. And in any case, there is a question of submission, a loss of authority in relation to everything for our me. What I look for in everything I do is today, it's just being well, it's well-being. And I think that belief, well, it's crazy in bulk. You don't necessarily realize it, but you're automatically thrown into mechanisms that ultimately, even if at the beginning, well, it's great, I'm too good, we said at least that I was good, but if you believe that you're handsome and that it makes you happy one day, they'll tell you that you're going to collapse. That's all these things. You have to the feed from us as much as you can all these mechanisms. In fact, it's reflection in relation to being outside of us, and that's what displeases me. That's what this story of submission is. We're not ourselves. There you go. That's what comes to mind for now. Jean-Claude. Okay, I could bounce back on that, but I think you have a little bit of your microphone. I don't know. If you would go last year and not microphone, no, there he activated it. And okay, not desisters. What I thought was more than belief. That's what belongs to the plan of astral, that is to say, which we all live.
It's what is more outside, that is to say everything that is on a white note, that a meteoric a creativity plan. Belief exists from the moment when we could say there is polarity. Belief, polarity, there is belief, there is polarity. And the belief completely replaces the will. You have as soon as you go into a belief system, you are in a system, you abandon your willingness, a bit like in hypnosis, where it is more of a dream, therefore, of the astral plane, therefore, of belief. You abandon your will. Your body no longer forgets you, although in the will, he forgets you not either, since he is the one who is responsible for making you walk, making you and the only time you're going to have the opportunity to have inventiveness, it's going into an action. That's it. That's what I can say about the phenomenon of belief, that in general, we could say that we have 98% beliefs, even 99% beliefs. Every time we think we're well, we think we're bad. Every time we think that we're always based on belief, it's never on certainty. That's what I think comes to mind for now. Okay. Yeah, I think what Christian was saying is the fact that indeed when you have a belief, well, you put your how can I say,
But are us their authority in someone else's hands. So there is to say that we're going to say, if I take the example of parents with a child, the child Well, the child at the beginning doesn't know anything about life, and so he believes everything his parents tell him, and in well, the jukes in quotation marks, that is to say, they pass on their beliefs to them. They pass them on to their child because it is their beliefs that allow them to experience in our society, and depending on the type of society where we live, we don't have the same beliefs, but these beliefs are necessary at the very beginning to live within this society, these structures. And so gradually the child is well grown and acquires autonomy, acquires discernment, faculty of reasoning, and so on. And well, little by little, finally, he can possibly reinvalidate certain beliefs of his parents, beliefs of 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 these classmates, that he believes in certain beliefs of teachers, and so on and so forth. That is to say that for me, and finally, the belief is necessary at the very beginning when a person is not autonomous, does not have a certain level of consciousness, and therefore we see that in my example of the child, and that accompanies a little what I said before on the belief that decreases when science increases. That is to say that, well, in our civilization, well, with the since Jules Ferry, that's it. School is mandatory. So the individuals go to school and gradually develop their minds, their ability to think, and so there you go. They have been less and less receptive to beliefs, less and less. They have been less receptive to beliefs, and with current generations, where they're, let's say, since some philosophers or certain thinkers, there is one who is really very well known in the field, it's Rich Nutil. He said, there is no mass and you are your only master, so stop believing everything others said, and then, well, it's up to you to make your name. And finally, it's these principles, they have been a little widely spread in societies, as much as well, now the younger generations really question both the authority of the parents and the authority of let's say, masters to think, the authority of all the structures that supervise the individual, so that what we see is the belief. And well, it was also finally, it is also the cement that finally reads civilization. Because if we weren't all believing that finally a certain number of things, well, finally civilization could go towards chaos. There you go. There you go. That's it.
There's a little something that gets to me, which is that authority makes one feel like those who are going to, and those who are going to beliefully give us belief, because from the moment we have submission to authority, we have beliefs. It's a bit like taking Suprahensi and listening to everything Bernard said. What makes us not fall into a form of belief? That's what's important, that we say, why, when we listen to cassettes, is it true? Are we not believed? What is the difference between nothing and nothing? Is we already felt what uncertainty was? Are we constantly in belief. So what makes the difference between the two? The only difference, in my opinion, is the perception of vibration. If we feel the vibration of someone who says something fundamentally needs belief, needs listening, needs no need to be disobedient to authority, listening, and possibly the vibration that serves our justice, which means that we are in certainty. I believe. I think that's it. But that doesn't make me need to believe. I think that's what guides me. Yes, what you just said is belief in the face of what another individual tells us. That is to say, we believe it or not. And so rather than believing it or not, you say, well, there you go. If we feel the vibration of this individual, or if both vibrations are granted, well, it can lead to the fact that we are certain. That is to say that we know that what he tells us is true. Because what there is not much vibration, even practically more, not at all to support a little bit what Bernard's teachings give. There is more vibration, there is more than just belief. That's why there are a lot of people who are young people in particular who tell us, yeah, all to listen to these videos, but it's not more than the Bible, it's not more than great thinkers, it's not more than Christian Murky, it's not more than something. What makes the difference? And it's to these questions that we can answer. What makes the difference is vibration. It's the fact of feeling something within oneself. And if we don't feel something within ourselves about what is said, well, we don't need to believe it. That we set up interviews, live interviews in person, I rather than doing the statements or that experts or excerpts of statements.
Yeah, but then I have to continue this show. You know? That's what I can tell myself. But hey, but anyway, that's everything. It was, how do you say, it was a momentum to meet, that's all. Because for me, it's a bit of bringing up to date what we heard in the cassettes and others. That is to say that everyone understood it in their own way. And then precisely, if we perceive the vibration of one cassette or another, while it allows us to possibly talk about it ourselves again with our own words, and I know that's because we also have that by listening to the cassette. It's that we are convinced of the reality of the thing. It's not because we listened, it's because we sensed something that triggered us, that opened us. Bam! There's something that opened our eyes, and because we felt it inside, it's because it was heard to us. It's because I expressed it. And by feeling myself reassured, in the continuation of what you're saying, Jean-Luc, there's also, as far as I'm concerned, my daily experience, somewhere, that's what I have. What happened to me in my life, whether it's with Franks and when we have our meetings or when I listen to Bernard, it's that there's an impact inside us that doesn't exist because I've been a Christian for a while. So there you had to believe, you had to obey, the dogma, whereas there is no obedience. Something is happening. That is to say, that very frequently, every day, there is something that comes at one moment and that completes what I see, what I hear.
So to adjust the movements that happen around me in my existence, and I know that that didn't exist before, and it's always something that's based on which, for me, that's why I talked about it earlier, which always puts me in peace. And when there's a movement that's a bit artistic that comes around, not necessarily against me, but everything that calms me down, well, I don't know how to express it. There's always a message that comes to me. It's not a voice that I hear in my head. It's a certainty, something I don't have a concrete example there, but something that comes to mind and suits me. And that's very, very difficult to explain as long as we don't actually experience it. At least I can't do it. Maybe because it talks about something so extraordinary that, like us, we're totally finished. It's a bit complicated for me to express that, but I feel things that didn't exist before, and that translates into a peace and calm every day. That's the first gain I feel from every we've done, whether it's there or elsewhere, and all the tapes I listened to earlier.
That is to say that I already talked about it during the show on intuition, is that, but me, on the things that I know that I'm certain of, well, I have a little internal signal. It's a shiver in the spine, and so there, for example, I have some there. There you go. And so, and I know that at that moment, either finally, either what I hear or what I say, well, I'm certain I'm certain it's like that. It's the reality for me. Finally, so it's good when you have a signal. So Peace for Christian, I have my little show, and Jean-Luc, you signed. For myself, I have no signals, because how could you say that when you have a certainty like that, it's you haven't made physically, which testifies to the fact that, well, you're sure and certain.
Because I don't need to believe it. I don't really care. I have it. That's how it is. It's certain for the moment. Maybe in 3 years, in 10 years, maybe not certain. Something else or has been outdated or has been transformed. But no, he said we can't say that something is happening. It's a bit like Christian was saying. It's still very difficult to determine a feeling. It's a feeling that would happen in the head, especially it gives the impression that it's new. So already to describe something new, it's difficult because it's new, since it's never been dignified or rubbed shoulders with, or it doesn't look like anything. So already something is difficult. And so which could be something new, but it's not absolutely impossible to determine what. That's all.
Well, there's a point that I wanted to discuss, which is the fact that it's an extension of the show on intuition. It's in fact the way for the individual who follows the teachings of the supramental, or rather who goes towards the path of the supramental. Well, this individual, let's say, the counsel finally. But the counsel is to have a communication greater and greater with one's contact, and these are the information from the contact that will reach us, and it's, and that's what gives us a source of information, let's say, of first choice.
Contact to know if it is contact. Is it not? Is it not an informed entity? Is it not? And that's the difference. It's always something external. We can only rely on something internal than something us, never on something behind it. Otherwise, it's always a belief, because we'll never know if what's outside is true, or if we should follow it. If we should follow it, we're always in a kind of belief, a kind of generous things, because when we talk about contact, we're always saying, yeah, it's my contact that he said, so that's reading. But no, don't give a damn contact. That's not the problem. The problem is that he has to be sure of what we know. They don't have what we're told outside, because the contact can sometimes distort your head as knowledgeable. If you don't have the certainty inside yourself that it's true or that it's accurate, and not submit and believe in something external. And I think that contact, we can't have it until we're sure to slowness, and not when we're sure of what it is. Yes. And besides, Bernard Montreal was saying that, well, contact, finally, the adjuster will put you to the test. That is to say, he will tell you things that will serve you, and then from time to time he hooks you to see finally. So it's true that if there is any source outside, an information source outside, well, yes, we rely on a new authority, even if it is supposed to be young, omniscient, someone who knows everything and everything. But hey, he doesn't necessarily want to tell us the truth every time, or finally the truth, to tell us something real. No.
Well, I wanted to add something else.
Well, the contact, the history of the contact, it's really, you really have to be separated from religion already to know what it's like, that the outside, because, well, we won't feel the contact anymore when we feel in harmony with what is said outside, whether it is contact, alienness, or anything. We are not there to be submissive. We are not there to be subjected to something. We are not there to be in belief. We are not there to be a percent. We are here to know what we are. It is our certainty that must be asserted, and not the person who stands outside saying, here, there must be a certainty of greater than mine. No, there is no certainty greater than yours, except that it is your certainty and your self-awareness that allows you to sort.
Yeah, because after that, that's how I find, indeed, it's consciousness, it's the degree of consciousness. Some call the room degree of consciousness. which makes that we have more and more certainty. It's the, but how, what should we do to have more and more certainty like that? That is to say that, because, and then also I have a question. Is the super mental compatible with the region?
Well, no. So they seem unfamiliar to me. Well, it doesn't seem unfamiliar to me, but to come back to the contact. Afterwards, for religion, we'll see. I can't describe it otherwise than through a sentence that I'm going to read. It's that I know what, but sometimes I'm sure I've had contact. And in the moment that follows, or in the instantaneous, that is to say that at the same time, without thinking about it, I realized that what I took for contact was polarized. So it wasn't contact, but at the moment when I realize it, I have contact that manifested itself to tell me, be careful, be careful. I'll express it with my words, but there is this phenomenon that we know and what, and when we make mistakes, we know it. It's a bit, I don't know, but it's true that it's the certainty and religion, but it's completely incompatible, since a religion is necessarily subjected to a form. It's subjected to a god, a book, to an image, to a sentence that someone said, and it's the danger that I was talking about earlier. Jean-Luc compared to people who could interpret the writings or words of Bernard, who could start to love Bernard. Well, as he said, they did until the bone, but it's totally incompatible. The supramental is definitely not a religion. We can access it or not. So what makes us access it or not? Well, there are many. When I talk about accessing, it's why some people include Bernard spoken and then say, damn, that's it. Why? And why others, as with that, a religion? Well, because they themselves are in a form of belief, or that they still need to believe. We come back to the beginning of the discussion, what you launched to start the debate. I have a Claude where you talked about ancestral societies that actually needed to be supervised, and that's why religion was most certainly useful for breaking the animal world in which man lives. Religion soothed all that, but now religion is completely overwhelmed. It's obvious.
Wait, just add that. Wait, excuse me, John. It's just okay. Religion for children, because I excuse me. I believe you because you earlier you talked about people with chandeliers there. Well, old societies, and then you talked a little later about children. It's very interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting because yesterday I was with my daughter and my little girl, so I observed all the mechanics, and I'm the grandpa, so I look at all that with a particular eye, especially now. And well, it's true that in a way, the father and the mother are like God does, uh, and that's why the more parents are, I'm going to let go of the evil, they're going to be aware, the better it will be for the child. The less beliefs that the child will receive will be toxic for him later, and easier it will be for them to get rid of it. Although the upside, if the adjuster decides to create shocks for you, whatever life you have for kids or teenagers, you'll take shocks in the face. That's your time. So what defines the time too where it happens? That's it. It's exciting. So I don't necessarily have an answer there, obviously, but this discussion, well, this discussion is exciting. When you're good, I'm not going to compare with other comparisons. It's useless. I'll let you continue. But just what I wanted to say is that religion, in fact, religion or society's beliefs, well,
I reread what I said a little bit. It's that at the beginning, they are necessary to, let's say, give you driving guides because, well, if if we don't talk about religion, well, why are you not going to do bad deeds? Why is it? Why aren't you going to steal your old man, leaving the distributors banknotes? Why aren't you going to cross the white line on the car? Well, with your car, and so on and so forth. So at first,
as much as the guide do religion, as the guide do the rules, as the ascendants, as your entourage absorbed from society to live together. And yes, you did. Well, that serves society. And then as well as we develop and develop our consciousness, we no longer need these systems of belief. And at the beginning, they are quite well, they are, I'm going to say essential, but they are, for me, strongly recommended. That is to say that, well, a system that would be completely anarchic, I may be making enemies. And, well, I have trouble considering and believe, well, I have trouble believing that he will be sustainable over time. But anarchy is a mode of belief from where will make one appreciate, will philosophize, thank you, no, but it's to say that they way
necessary at first. Necessarily society. Yeah, to structure society a bit like the child. We educate them to give them the essential structures to adapt finally to be able to live in society. In fact, it's for a system of social self-protection, but it's essential. Yeah. And if there are laws too, that's why there are the notions of good and evil. We think what we want about the supreme, but at the purely planetary level, it's certain that these are techniques that take techniques, implementations that finally implemented things that have gradually become implemented to allow us to discuss today, one day.
Go ahead, I'm going to cut the floor. Sorry, but I'm doing, it was relative to religion. I think that
So that's what religion is. It's always external. Well, the phenomenon of religion is always an external phenomenon. And as long as it doesn't fit inside us, it's because, well, call religion a phenomenon of belief. Certainty is always within us. It's never outside. And what we review, well, a belief is always a negative will. That is to say, we always want something to come to us. And while a certainty is always going forward, going outward, it's never going to wait for anything. That's it. That's what I saw on that. Yeah. Indeed, the certainty, when we heard about the certainty there was the movement that worked. I perceived that as a deployment, in fact, a deployment of oneself, a little something new, because life is something, finally existence, it's something that is always in motion. And belief is something that states, that freezes, that actually prevents us from existing. Whereas when you feel yourself inside, finally, when you are being a relationship with your internal movement, finally, after the internal movement, that's the word that comes to mind. When it's something that unfolds and allows us to move forward, but to really move forward, not to move forward like people, well, I'm going to make enemies,
two, but or finally, I have nothing against all these people because especially what concerns me, I was long enough. So, but there you go. There is this story of deployment that came to me at the time when you were talking about that. I don't know what you said anymore. I cancel. You said a word, but I felt a handsome being who becomes aware of what he is. There you go. I don't know what you said anymore, but that's it. Yes, it was a bit of a word there that comes back to me. That's it, Bernard de Moriel. He talks about centrality. That is to say that, in fact, it's a kind of autonomy of the individual. That is to say that we become more and more autonomous. And that is to say that we focus on the inside, what we feel inside, rather than on everything that happens around us. And that's why, well, and that's why, Christian, you were saying, well, here we are. After that, we have peace. That is to say that whatever happens around me, it is the war in Ukraine, which is this, which is that, which is firearm, which is, well, in short, I'm talking about it. It's the best. It's exactly that. It's the fact that I don't actually experience drama around me, but I'm sure that I've been experiencing events for months, years. I know that for talking about it. For talking about it, I know that I experience events, but really stupid stuff. I didn't hang a flat tire. The flat tire that punctured you, you have to leave the other flat tire. Before, damn, I stole anger. I'm not telling you the dirty words that came out. But today I have my flat tire. So, and since you're not pissed on top of that, or very, very little, it's on the margin, you're going to have a peak, an emotional peak, but which goes fast. So you have your flat tire, well, you're going to make the right decision because the right decision will come because you're not angry. And since you're not angry, first of all, you're not angry anyone around you, but first of all, you don't get angry. And well, you don't realize the energy gain. That is to say that before a simple puncture in the morning will put pressure on the day. But you have to realize what I'm saying. You die a bit bad in the morning or you break your rear view mirror, it's the drama, it's the end of your life for the day. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. That's it. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what I wanted to say earlier. In fact, you said you picked up what I was talking about. You associated it with simplicity. Well, I don't know if I'm here, but I lived Supramental through this kind of piece of calm that I would have liked to have since the beginning of my life, except that if I didn't get it, it's because there was a time for things, and then it happens. For Nor, I also finished questioning myself why I didn't discover it to another. No, the question doesn't exist in mind. Well, the question can exist, but it doesn't make sense. So I'm going back to find this story of flat tires because it happened to me too, and well, but it happened to me after a little practice of Supramental, so I didn't get angry. So I think it's a criterion to know if we're on the right track of Supramental. It's 100,000 seconds. It's always reactive. Yeah.
Yeah, you see, there's a tweet that I find weird that, as you were saying earlier, before there was belief and therefore religion to give a kind of legalization, a kind of boundaries or children, for adults and politicians. And you realize that the more the law is supposed to replace religion, the more religion decreases, and the more the law is trampled on, and the more revolution there is, and the more anarchy there is, chaos, and the less intelligence there is, and the more it's a mess.
Yes, it's a means of intelligence. That is to say that, well, it should be that the individual is intelligent and that we need laws or religions. If we need a law or a religious one, it's not intelligent enough. He has to believe either a politician or a god or a believer in a kind of sect or a kind of
ideology that we can see in which we can basically do stupid things. Basically, that's how it is. Otherwise, we'll let the impulses go. We'll let these less than personal inhibition out of respect for the individual. We're not going to do anything. We're going to go back to the state of monkey where it's the strongest who wins. That's kind of what finally, I think it's kind of what we see in the evolution of our societies, because we now know that we must reinstate them in religion. That's the problem, that religion, finally, beliefs, there are fewer and fewer of them, but there's no new system that replaces it. That is to say, that we previously said in the show that, well, it's the good, so what I call the degree of awareness of the individual, Jean-Luc, who says it's the intelligence of the individual. Well, if we have some, well,
a large part of the population that no longer has any beliefs or has much less of it, and that has not yet developed what should replace it, well, we find ourselves in an increasingly chaotic society. That's a bit what we have. And societies that are not chaotic, they are societies where there are methods of mind.
That is to say, a new law, the law of terror. And as long as there is a form of religion, or which is sectarianism, and we all people enter a kind of credo, whereas there shouldn't be one. Man should be released rather than being constantly subjected to a form of slavery. There you go. Yes, I was a researcher who said that democracy is the least bad political systems, finally, something like that. To say, well, democracy is not great, but it's what's worse. It's maybe what's the least worse, but my sense, democracy was already intelligent. It's not made for bulls.
Okay, that's my session. Now, if we see you making areas, I'll just touch them like you, but we'll see.
Good babbies, okay. Well, there he is. I think we're going around the belief.
We're all believing at some point. When we have something else better, all the better. And when we have nothing else, it's a bit risky. Okay. You want to add something else? Because otherwise we're going to stop there. But at least it's good. Yeah. At least it's good because it's in France. Then the next show, the next live show from the next Sunday, from Sunday the 4th, it was 4th, Sunday 14th. And well, that's the subject. It's going to be how to make contact with the double. There you go. Okay. Very good. Well, thank you. Thank you to both of you for sitting, for participating, and thank you to you for watching me. And see you soon. See you soon. Yeah. Yeah. And bye.